Number 14, Wolverine sinking. Logan probably spends more on waterproof cologne than any other X-Men because the ocean is basically his coffin. Most people don't realize that having a skeleton coated in adamantium turns you into a human anchor the second you lose your footing on a boat. While he can survive a nuclear blast or a direct hit from a tank shell, a simple backyard swimming pool is a genuine death trap for the world's most dangerous mutant. His body is packed with the densest metal in existence, which means his natural buoyancy is about the same as a solid lead brick. If he drops into the deep blue sea, there's no treading water or doing the breaststroke. He just travels straight to the bottom to hang out with the Titanic. His healing factor is a miracle of science, but it still requires a steady supply of oxygen to keep his brain from turning into mush. If he stays down there, his cells die faster than they can regenerate, leading to a very permanent and very soggy end. This isn't just a theory, as he famously used this exact method to take out his own son, Dakin, in a particularly dark family bonding moment, but that's a story for another video. What's even funnier to me is that it probably makes him the only superhero who has to check the depth of a puddle before he tries to jump over it. Number 13, Gladiator, self-esteem. Imagine being able to punch a hole through a planet, but losing all your muscle mass because someone made fun of your hair. Kalark, the leader of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, operates on a power system that is essentially the ultimate fake-it-till-you-make-it strategy. His strength, speed, and invulnerability are entirely fueled by his own confidence, which is a terrifying way to live if you have any hint of anxiety. If he believes he's the toughest guy in the room, he can fly through a sun without breaking a sweat. However, the second he starts to doubt his mission or his own worth, his skin becomes as soft as an overripe peach. This makes him a psychological target for anyone with a decent insult or 16-hour screen time on Instagram Reels. If an opponent manages to trick him into thinking he's getting weaker, his brain actually makes it happen. Like this one right here where Mr. Fantastic told him he's weak, and he believed it. He is the only cosmic warrior who could be defeated by a therapist who knows exactly which buttons to push regarding his childhood. His willpower is the engine for his godlike status, but that engine stalls the moment he questions his own ego. Honestly, I think it's hard to be the protector of an empire when your invincibility depends on whether you're feeling yourself that morning. Number 12, Red Hulk, overheating. General Thunderbolt Ross spent decades hunting the Hulk, only to turn it to a giant red version of the beast with a very frustrating design flaw. Unlike the green version, who gets more durable as his anger rises, the Red Hulk has a biological thermostat that is consistently stuck in the danger zone. When he gets mad, his body temperature spikes exponentially, turning him into a walking furnace that can melt pavement just by standing on it. This sounds cool until you realize he has a thermal ceiling that acts like a built-in off switch. If he pushes his rage too far, his internal systems literally redline and shut down to keep him from turning into a puddle of irradiated soup. This forces him to fight with a level of tactical restraint that the original Hulk never has to worry about. He has to constantly check his own pulse to make sure he isn't about to pass out from a heat stroke in the middle of a fist fight. An opponent doesn't even have to beat him, they just have to stay alive long enough for him to cook himself into a state of unconsciousness. In simplest terms, he's basically a high-end gaming laptop that crashes the second you try to run a game on the maximum settings. Number 11, Black Cat, jinxing her friends. Felicia Hardy is the ultimate "it's not you, it's me" partner, because her presence actually causes the ceiling to fall on your head. She has the mutant-like ability to manipulate probability, ensuring that her enemies always trip on their own shoelaces or have their guns jam at the worst possible moment. The problem is that the bad luck aura doesn't have a sophisticated targeting system and eventually starts leaking onto her friends and boyfriends. If she hangs around Spider-Man too long, he starts having freak accidents and equipment failures that have nothing to do with his usual Parker luck. It is an involuntary environmental hazard that makes her a walking biohazard for anyone she actually cares about. This adds a layer of sadness to her life because the closer she gets to someone, the more likely they are to get hit by a falling piano. She is a literal personification of misfortune, which makes team-ups a logistical nightmare for anyone who values their physical safety. What makes it even crazier is that she can't even turn it off. It's just a permanent part of her personal gravity. I guess nothing says true love like staying away from someone so they don't accidentally get struck by lightning while buying milk. Number 10, Domino, chicken. Having the power to make every bullet miss you and every lottery ticket a winner should make life pretty stress-free, unless there's a bird nearby. Nina Thurman, the elite mercenary known as Domino, can survive a building explosion without a scratch thanks to her probability manipulation, but she completely loses her mind at the sight of a chicken. She suffers from electrophobia, which is a very real and very intense fear of our feathered farm friends. This isn't something her luck can fix because the fear is entirely psychological and bypasses her mutant gift. When a chicken enters the room, the woman who stares down bloodthirsty killers becomes a screaming mess of panic. This has been used for plenty of laughs, especially when Deadpool is involved, because seeing a world-class assassin flee from a clucking hen is objectively hilarious. Like, who wouldn't laugh at that? It's a bizarrely humanizing quirk that proves even the most capable survivors have a breaking point that makes no sense. On top of that, it makes her the only member of the X-Force who would legitimately consider petting Zoo a high-risk security threat. I guess the good luck power only works if you're not busy hyperventilating over a bucket of extra crispy wings. Number 9, Black Bolt, making sounds during sleep. The king of the Inhumans is the only person on Earth who has to worry about a bad dream might actually vaporize a city block. Black Bolt's voice is linked to a massive well of destructive energy, meaning even a tiny squeak or a sigh can level a mountain. Because of this, he spent his entire life in a state of self-imposed silence, communicating only through sign language or his telepathic wife. The most terrifying part of his existence happens when he closes his eyes at night. Most of us mumble or snore when we hit a deep sleep, but for Black Bolt, a midnight snuffle is a weapon of mass destruction. He has to undergo intense mental conditioning just to make sure he stays perfectly quiet while he's unconscious. He sleeps in specialized soundproof chambers that act like a bomb shelter for his own vocal cords. It's a life of constant high-stakes anxiety where letting your guard down for a second could result in the death of everyone you love. What makes it even crazier is that he can never truly relax, even in his own head, because the threat is always just one vocal vibration away. That's why when you're Black Bolt, it's hard to get a good night's rest when you know your snores are technically a violation of the Geneva Convention. Number 8, Mole Man, flashlights. Living in the center of the earth sounds like a great way to avoid taxes, but it really ruins your ability to handle a bright sunny day. Harvey Elder, the Mole Man, spent so many years in the pitch-black tunnels of Subterranea that his eyes evolved to see in total darkness. Trade-off is that now he has extreme photophobia, making him the only supervillain who can be defeated by a group of tourists with iPhones. While he commands an army of massive monsters and high-tech underground machinery, a simple high-powered flashlight is enough to cause him physical pain. If he tries to invade the surface world, he has to wear specialized goggles that make him look like a steampunk welder just to keep his retinas from melting. This weakness makes him an easy target for anyone with a basic understanding of light bulbs. He is a king in the dark, but on a well-lit street corner, he's just a confused old man who can't see his own hands. It might sound too simple, but it's a grounded limitation that keeps him tethered to his damp, dark kingdom forever. Number 7, Dazzler, total silence. Allison Blair is a mutant who literally runs on vibes, which makes her the most environmentally dependent member of the X-Men. She has the ability to take sound waves and turn them into light energy, which she uses to blast enemies with lasers or create blinding flashes. Pretty cool. The catch is that she isn't a battery, she's a transducer, meaning she needs an external sound source to do anything at all. In a perfectly quiet room or a vacuum, she's basically just a regular person with great hair and a sparkly outfit. This makes the sound of silence a literal nightmare for her in combat. If an enemy is smart enough to use noise-canceling technology or a soundproof field, she loses all her offensive capabilities instantly. To combat this, she often carries her own music players into battle, so she has a constant stream of fuel for her powers. What makes it even crazier is that her strength is directly tied to the volume of her surroundings. While she's a powerhouse at a rock concert or in a noisy city, she's completely useless in a library. At least she has a legitimate excuse for why she can't go anywhere without her headphones. Number 6, Taskmaster, Deadpool's brain. Being able to copy any physical move you see is a top-tier superpower until you try to copy someone who is genuinely out of their mind. Tony Masters, the Taskmaster, has photographic reflexes that let him fight like Captain America or Hawkeye after watching them for 5 seconds. He relies on the fact that most fighters are logical and follow certain patterns or styles. Enter Deadpool, a man whose brain is a chaotic soup of voices, pop culture references, and pure unfiltered brain rot. It's almost impossible for Taskmaster to predict or mimic his movements because even Deadpool himself doesn't even know what he's going to do next. When Taskmaster tries to copy Wade Wilson, his brain basically hits a 404 error because the movements don't follow any known martial arts logic. Deadpool might stop mid-fight to do a little dance or stab himself just to see what happens, and trying to follow that logic causes Taskmaster's neural pathway to tie themselves in knots. It's the one fight where being an expert observer is a massive disadvantage. Turns out that the best way to beat a genius tactician is to be so incredibly stupid that you can't even process your next move. Number 5, Spider-Man Bug Spray. Peter Parker can catch a falling car and dodge bullets with his eyes closed, but he still gets tripped up by the same stuff you use on ants in your kitchen. There's a specific chemical called ethyl chloride that acts like a kryptonite-flavored bug spray on our favorite wall crawler. Historically, this chemical is found in industrial pesticides, has the power to dull his spider sense and leave him feeling dizzy and weak. It's a very literal interpretation of his arachnid theme's origin that reminds us he's still part bug at the end of the day. While modern villains don't use it much because they're too busy building giant robots, it remains a lingering biological vulnerability. His enhanced metabolism usually handles toxin like a champ, but this specific aerosol can bypass his defenses and leave him vulnerable. So yeah, it's crazy to me that a genius-level scientist could be brought down by a can of specialized spray that could probably be found in a lab supply closet. It's a bit of a weird relic from his early days that makes him look a lot less intimidating than a guy who fights gods should look. Though it's a good thing his enemies prefer elaborate death traps over just hiring a professional exterminator to follow him around. Number 4, Isca the Unbeaten, winning. Imagine having a superpower that makes it impossible for you to lose a fight, but also makes it impossible for you to keep any friends. Isca is a mutant from Araco whose ability is forced victory, which means the universe will literally rewrite itself to ensure she comes out on top. Sounds amazing until you realize she has absolutely no control over it. If she's fighting for the good guys and they start to lose, her power will force her to betray them and join the winning side automatically. She's a prisoner of her own success, unable to even lose a simple bet or a game of cards for fun. This robs her of any real agency or loyalty, as her body will choose the path of victory over the path of morality every single time. During major cosmic wars, she's been forced to turn against her own people because the mathematical probability of their success dropped too low. Like this one time where she turned against her own team, making them give up because they realized they're never going to win. It's a tragic psychological curse that leaves her completely alone because nobody can trust a person who is biologically incapable of losing. At the end of the day, winning every single argument isn't nearly as much fun when you're legally required to betray your mom to do it. Number 3, Thanos, subconscious self-sabotage. The Mad Titan is a being who could snap his fingers and erase half of all life, yet he consistently loses to a guy in a spandex suit and a shield. This isn't because he lacks the power to win, but because deep down in his purple soul, he doesn't think he deserves the trophy. Adam Warlock pointed out that Thanos always leaves a tiny stupid flaw in his master plans that his enemies can exploit. Whether it's leaving the Infinity Gauntlets on a table or forgetting to lock the back door of his reality-warping fortress, he always provides the seeds of his own destruction. This subconscious self-sabotage comes from a place of deep insecurity and his weird obsession with impressing the literal embodiment of death. He craves the struggle and the validation of the fight more than he actually wants the silent, empty universe he claims to desire. He's basically his own worst enemy, constantly tripping himself up right at the finish line because he's terrified of what happens after he actually wins. What makes it even crazier is that he is the most powerful entity in the galaxy but can't defeat his own inner critic. With all the stones of the universe, I think he could at least afford a decent life coach to work on his confidence issues. Number 2, Venom, craving chocolate. For a long time, the Venom symbiote was known for its terrifying habit of threatening to eat people's brains, which is a pretty bad look for a lethal protector. Turns out the alien isn't just a mindless cannibal, it actually has a very specific nutritional requirement for a chemical called hold on. Why is this so difficult to read? Phenylethylamine. This chemical is essentially for the symbiote's health and stability, and it just so happens to be concentrated in the human brain. Luckily for the local population, this exact same chemical is found in massive quantities in ordinary chocolate. This transformed a horrific predatory instinct into a high-stakes snack addiction. If Eddie Brock doesn't keep a steady supply of Hershey's or truffles on hand, the symbiote starts getting cranky and looking at bystanders like they're appetizers. It's a bizarre chemical dependency that anchors a terrifying alien monster to a candy aisle of a convenience store. It's just so interesting to me that the symbiote can be pacified with a box of chocolates, making it significantly less scary once you know its secret. It turns their life into a constant quest for sugar just to keep the eating people urges at bay. That's why it's hard to stay intimidated by a toothy space monster when you know he's only one Miss Snickers bar away from a total meltdown. Number 1, Hulk, puppies. The strongest being on Earth can withstand a direct hit from a nuclear bomb, but he is completely defenseless against a wagging tail and a wet nose. The Hulk is a creature fueled by pure, unadulterated rage, and the angrier he gets, the more unstoppable his physical power becomes. However, this rage has a very specific off switch that involves the simple, innocent affection of small animals. S.H.I.E.L.D. discovered that if you drop a crate of puppies on the Hulk, his primitive mind is so overwhelmed by the cuteness that his anger evaporates instantly. This causes his gamma-radiated body to shrink back into the much less threatening Bruce Banner. It is a tactical puppy bomb that works better than any tank or high-tech laser ever could. The Hulk's childlike personality simply cannot maintain a temper tantrum when he is being licked by a dozen golden retrievers. That's why the ultimate counter to a monster born of trauma is just a little bit of unconditional furry love. That's it for this one. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and ring the bell so you never miss a drop. Craving more stories from comics, movies, and beyond? Check out this video right here. Cheers, and see you in the next one.